How do you set up the environment preferences for your current DRC debug environment? This can be done from the preferences form that can be invoked by going to the tools drop down in the DRC debug environment, and you need to select the preferences over here, and this is how the preferences window would look like. Let's take a look at some of the sections over here. There are totally 5 sections over here, starting with the error selection window settings. Over here we have the show error coordinates option, which is by default turned on, which means that when you display any rule in your error report window, the coordinates of that particular rule also would be shown in the list, in the line item. So that would be that is normally on by default. You also have an option to set the maximum number of errors to be displayed in the rule by cell mode. It's set to 1000 right now. You have the option to enable or display the display fixed errors. By default, it is turned on as well. Moving on to the error navigation stage, as we have discussed in the previous slide as well, there are a couple of modes for the highlighting. By default, it is set to classic mode, and you may want to change it to on-demand mode. You need to make use of this radio button over here. In classic mode, when you select any specific rule from the error report window, that gets highlighted automatically in your layout window. But whereas in the on-demand mode, when you select any rule in your DRC debug environment, unless until you click on the H button, it doesn't get highlighted in the layout. Other options available in the error navigation section are to open the cells in the same window or not, to automatically select the first rule by cell on loading the DRC debug environment, or to automatically load all the rule errors in the DRC debug environment, or to automatically clear the previous error. So all these options are enabled by default. Moving on to the waivers section over here. For the status override, there are 3 options: ask, always, and never. By default, it is set to ask. That means that when you try to change the status of an existing rule from error to waived, let's say, it would always ask you before assigning that waived status to that particular rule. In the option none, it would never allow you to change, and in the option always, it will just change without taking the extra permission from the user. There are also options to enable the waivers count, to display waivers count alongside the error count number that always comes with the rule cell mode in the line item. You also have an option to display the waived errors. You may by default it is turned on, and hide waivers from the summary file. Moving on to the error viewing stage settings over here. By default, when you select any particular violation in the error report window, that gets fit and zoom automatically. You may want to you also have the option to set it to none or pan. Moving on to the error marker section over here, you have the option to set different colors for selected errors, loaded errors, waived errors, or show errors. By default, they are set to red, blue, yellow, and respectively. And for the show error option, there are 2 options over here. By default, it is set to cell mode. You may change it to the primary or the top mode as well, which means that when you select an error in a cell which is hierarchically down, by default, it will open up that cell in the layout window and would show up the violation at that level. But if you want to report only at the top level, then you can change this option, the show errors option, to top mode. There are a few miscellaneous options over here, like show the rule names or show the rule captions, show properties, etc., while displaying the violations in the DRC debug environment. Then you also have an option to automatically save the data on exiting the preferences window. Then we have help, cancel, save, apply, and OK buttons over here. To execute or to save the changes you make in the preferences window, click on apply or OK.